Hey folks, and welcome to episode 159 of the Phil Swallow podcast, recording on Sunday the 17th of September 2023, and the title of this episode is Open House Festival. By its very title, that's what this show is going to be about primarily. There's a couple of little updates at the end. Anyway, let's move on. So it's been a fantastic fortnight of open house events. Now, a little bit about the Open House Festival. It's something I heard about a few years ago now, where people would open up their houses to the public. It's done as part of a scheme. There is a website you can register, which is really the way you have to book tickets if you're going to go to some of the events that are on there. And you get kind of presented with a dashboard showing all the events. Oh, sorry, one other thing. There is an open garden scheme, a yellow book scheme or something that's been going for years. I don't know if this is connected. But anyway, Open House Festival. If you look for that, you'll find kind of stuff that links to this show and what I'm going to cover. And so when it was coming up, I feel I possibly left it a little bit late because some things were already kind of fully booked. I think there are a limited number of slots for some of the things that are ticketed. You have to get in quick. You kind of have to know what you're looking for and kind of go for it with motivation and with it in your sights. But I filtered on Croydon area and Bromley. These are London boroughs, Croydon, Bromley. And I thought that there might be the odd event local to me, and that if the fortnight period was still continuing and I'd seen all that I could see via getting tickets and stuff, I would look to travel up to London for the remainder. But I'm delighted to say that my enjoyment, my fulfilment of what I wanted to achieve via Open House this year has all been satisfied by Croydon and with one visit, Bromley. Which is brilliant, and that's testimony to how the boroughs have got on board with the scheme and put the effort, the resources, the personnel in place to get these events up and running. And I'm just going to kind of give you a picture, not literally, but more of that. Give you a flavour of what I visited, the local to my area, and then again a few updates at the end. So hopefully you'll stay around and have a listen to how I spent my open house. Now, some of this is backed up by photos that I posted online. Don't think I did anything on Insta. My bad. May have done one, actually. Anyway, or threads. But I did some stuff on my Facebook page. And my Facebook page is public, just Phil Swallow. I have got a Phil Swallow photo video one, but to be honest, this is public and I'm happy for people to just jump on there. You can kind of follow and stuff like that. So have a look on there for the ones that I signpost, and then I'll probably do some other posts further down the line. The emphasis has been on obviously getting these done, getting these in the diary, making sure that I've got time to go out and do the visits and things. But obviously there's real life that happens in between, so it's not always plain sailing. So the first visit was St Mary's Church. And this was actually, it might have been before the official event. I think it was in the early parts or the middle part of the week leading up to the official start, or it was in the first week. It really doesn't matter. St Mary's Church, Addington, which is a beautiful church nearby. Mum and Dad got married there in 1957, and they basically opened their doors. I think as a church, it's normally open most days during the day. Well worth a visit if you're in the area. The church dates back to 1080. 5 archbishops of Canterbury are buried there. I understand that there would have been 6, but there was something about the archbishop, the palace, Addington Palace, being sold, and he ended up being buried in Canterbury, Benson. So it's a wonderful church to visit, really pretty. I did do some posts, I think, as I say, online, possibly on my Facebook page, but if you look up, you'll see plenty of stuff about there. And it was nice that you could go in there at your own time, in your own speed. There's a couple of leaflets you can pick up there. One is on kind of a tour of the churchyard. One is on pointing out, signposting things in the church. And I'm just making sure my phone doesn't go into screensaver. And they also put a tea kettle thing and some cups and some sugar and milk, which is a really nice touch. So you could have a cup of tea there if you wanted to. And if you needed to use the facilities, the church hall next door was available. So really good. Laid everything on. Thank you, St Mary's Church, Addington. Brilliant church. And as I say, if you ever are in the area, it's well worth a visit because it's stunning inside. Beautiful church. So that was the first one. Sue and I went down there. Had a nice little wander around. The second one I just did on my own. This was, I see some of them I'm almost forgetting now. The first one, there was no ticket at all. It's there, it's open. This particular one was possibly also not ticketed. Now, on the dashboard, when you register an open house, you can kind of bookmark things. So it's where you've added something to your listing or you actually got a ticket, and in some cases they ask for a donation of about £4 or something. So I normally make a donation. So Croydon Minster was my second trip, and this was last Saturday. We were in the middle of a heat wave, and they were doing 3 tours of the Belltower at 11, 1 and 2 or something like that. So I got there early. The actual it was open for visitors from 10:30. And it was kind of self-guided. There was a leaflet there which they lent you. I mean, I just did a kind of, a phone photo of the leaflet. And you can look round the very impressive church there, the stained glass windows, the organ, the Archbishop John Whitgift's grave or tomb there. Really quite stunning, quite a stunning church. And the Belltower visit was great fun. So climbing up the stairs, we went to the first kind of room, the first level, which is where all the ropes were hanging down, and we were given a nice little talk from the team there about, some of the bell ringing operation that goes on and some of the history. It was really quite impressive. And then we went up another set of steps to where the actual bells were, and they organised, well, we've split into 2 groups. So while we were in next to the bells, and they gave us, these are headphones, they gave us ear defenders if we wanted them, or just said put your fingers in your ears. They asked the people who were on the first level to just ring a couple of bells, a treble and a tenor or something. I hope I got that right. And then, so whilst you saw the physical operation of the bell being pulled on the first bit, you could then see the actual bell ringing in the second bit. So it was really good. Did a couple of video clips. And I think what I might do is just do a kind of compilation video from that kind of backs up this what I'm telling you now. So that was really good. And of course, you go up there, we were able to look through the windows and sort of climb up to look out onto the roof. It's a bit like St Peter's Church in South Croydon. You kind of see the Croydon Minster, the kind of 4 pillars of the tower, from many different places in Croydon, so it's a well-known landmark. They had a very bad fire there in 1867, but they recovered well, I would say. So it's a very impressive church. Should you need to visit, if you're in Croydon, I would recommend it. So that was that second visit. The third one was again myself, and this was at Kenley Aerodrome on the Sunday, and this was to view the shelters that are integrated. They're actually built into the rear of the blast pens, and there were 2 that were open, number 3 and number 11. Number 3 was kind of corrugated iron structure, and what happens is they would bring these corrugated iron panels in, line them up as it were, and pour concrete on, and then the whole thing would be sound, and they would put earth and sandbags and other things over the top. And the other one in 11 was built as concrete panels come in and assembled and left as such. There might have been some other mechanics to it, but you get the idea. Probably the best way for you to get a visual of these is to look at the video that I posted this week onto YouTube. So it's Kenley Aerodrome, and it's a trip to the blast pen shelters or something like that, I called it. So if you look on my channel, Phil Swallow, you'll see the video. And there's a bit of me walking and talking, and a glider flying, and a visit to 2 pens. So that was really good. It's nice to be able to see these, even though we had access to number 11 when I made the video, end of 2021. Went live 2022. It was nice to revisit there. Obviously, in nice weather as well. It was a really beautiful day up there, so very warm. So that was Kenley, visit number 3. Number 4 was the middle of last week, and that was Croydon Archives tour. And this was a ticketed, reserve your place. Now, I visit Croydon Archives as part of the research that I do for my videos and talks. So I knew elements of the building, but obviously I hadn't been anywhere near the actual archives. And that was really great. We went down there. We weren't allowed to take any photos and everything, which is to be completely respected. And, they've got some items going back there, artefacts going back there to 15th century. I spotted some, what were actually the original massive set of plans for the Addington pumping station. And they had some exhibits out there that we could actually see. They mentioned that so little of it is available online, an absolute tiny fraction. A reasonable number of records are indexed, meaning you can get to maybe a high-level folder where what you're looking for should be in. And then that would help the archivists. So when you make a request to go and take the material out and have a look, you could actually you could provide them with some sources and hopefully some index numbers and things. So that's something I will bear in mind for future trips, rather than just say, I want to look up this, please. I will try and do some research to help them look up their online indexing and try and get to the kind of ballpark or better, actually on the pitch. I'm not for sure how far I'll stretch that. But anyway, try and get to where I want to help them. So Croydon Archives tour, brilliant. Bearing in mind, I've been there to do the research, to actually know where the information is stored and what other sets of information are there, to then understand and join it all together is really cool. We went to West Wickham Library, Addington Road, which is on the kind of main way towards West Wickham and Hayes. Now, this is a beautiful Art Deco building. Originally once a house. It had been used by the NHS. It's the temporary home until the end of next year, the end of 2024, of the West Wickham Library, because the West Wickham Library is being developed and they're retaining a chunk of the structure, which is good. And they're building and adding to it cafes and things like that. Some event space, or maybe. So we had a nice chat with the people down there, and it's just, the detail there. They've got these kind of curved doors as you go in, and of course everything's nice and symmetrical, clean lines, the sort of wavy lines as well that they have sometimes on these Art Deco finishing touches. I must learn these architectural references. So that was really good, and well worth a visit should you need to go and see a library. So if you're in the area that covers, great. I'm sure they would be accommodating anyway, even outside of open house. So yeah, West Wickham Library, brilliant example of Art Deco in the area. So that was great, and I love Art Deco. So then we got to last Friday, and Sue and I went to the Crystal Palace subway. So this was a ticketed visit. So we parked at one of the lower levels of Crystal Palace Park. There's a kind of entrance road where you can go in to park for the grounds or branch off to park for the sports centre. So we parked for the grounds, walked up the various levels to where the Crystal Palace would have been or was, and then visited the subway site, which is basically a wonderful Victorian subway. They're actually working on it now. I believe they have the funding to complete it. It's a good level of progress being made already. So they're building what would be the steps down, and then you've got a kind of, I suppose it's almost a collecting area, a flat area, and they've got the roof that they're building, the top of that. And then you go through these wonderful pillars and columns, or like mosaic style. I did do some posts, or a post on my Facebook. We did one of these check-ins, so have a look at that. But it's a beautiful structure. And what was really ironic is that subway, you would literally, like any pedestrian subway, you walk down the steps, you walk under the road or rail or whatever you might be going under, and then you're on the other side. And you can go up steps to that level. So it's really simple. I almost don't need to explain it. However, it's a one-way route. So you have to then, you end up on the south side, I believe it is. You have to then cross over to get back to where you started from, depending on whether that helps or hinders. We obviously had to cross over. Now, it actually took, I don't know what it is about the phasing of the lights there, but it actually took a while for us to cross over, or for the lights to change to do the pedestrian crossing. And of course it's one way, and then you kind of have to wait for the next one to go. And I thought, actually, they really need a subway here. Ba-boom. So obviously they are building a subway. So subways are really good. That brings us to yesterday morning, which was it's the Croydon Almshouses. Its official title is the Church of the Holy Hospital of the Holy Trinity. Going back to a time when hospitals weren't what they are now. They're more of a kind of a place for people to stay when they needed to. There was an element of care there, but the building, the charter to build it goes back to 1596, and it was opened in 1600. Archbishop John Whitgift was a visitor there. He was instrumental in getting the premises built, and I worked opposite there for about 4 years. Been coming to Croydon all my life, and it was the first time I could get inside the quadrangle to then go inside the actual buildings, and it was wonderful. The tour guide was a resident there. He's been there about 8 years, and we started off in the chapel. And that's the bit, if you know Croydon, where you come down George Street and you've got the bank on one side and the corner of the almshouses on the other. That bit is the chapel. So we were in there to start with and give them some of the history, some of the pictures pointed out and Latin writings and things. And then we moved along. Well, we had a spell outside where he was explaining some of the things like the single-handed clock, which just points at the hour. And beautiful there, completely different perspective, and also quite quiet, bearing in mind what's going on in Croydon out there. It's really quite well kind of insulated in a way. So we then went to the common room, which is a kind of almost a day room. They have coffee mornings there. It's a social space. It's nicely decorated at Christmas and all that kind of stuff. Had a nice fireplace there with a couple of notable historical artefacts and elements there. Then we sort of came out of that room and upstairs to the called the audience chamber, something like that. But it's a kind of private area most of the time with a very, very Tudor feel to it. It's got the wood panelling. It's got some very important documents, including one signed by Queen Elizabeth I. It's got other sealed documents all the way round. There's a note from Winston Churchill. There's one of the treacle Bibles where they use the term treacle instead of balm in a reference, and they're quite rare apparently. There's also a sign hanging from the Swan pub, which was next door. That's where the Alders site is now, and so that was a nice kind of throwback to the past, and the whole kind of atmosphere there was special. Very, very historical building. It's had one or two challenges over the years as to whether it should be almost moved somehow, destruct and then reconstruct using the same stone and those sort of things. I don't know. I think that's what he was mentioning. But it stood and responded or knocked back challenges to things like road widening and that kind of thing. So that was really impressive, and that's going to stay in the memory for a long time. That visit to the Hospital of the Holy Trinity, otherwise known as the Croydon Almshouses, on the corner of George Street and High Street, or North End. It's actually all three meet. So you've got number 1 High Street, which is the bank. You've got North End starts from there, going towards West Croydon, and it's where George Street comes down, Crown Hill opposite, for those who know your Croydon. And the final event I went to on Open House was a walking tour of Addington Village. Now, I've covered a lot of Addington Village in my videos and my research, and actually the guide who was taking the tour today had been looking at one of my videos that morning, which was a nice touch. So we had a chat about kind of local history stuff in the area. It was really nice, and it was a great, wonderful group. We went into the church and had a look at the churchyard. We went to the old forge. We went up to the hill to the Lion Gates. This means a lot if you know the area, less so if you don't. Then we went back and through the park up to Gravel Hill, up Gravel Hill towards Shirley. Now, we did overrun somewhat on the tour, but that was flagged up at the beginning. It didn't cause a problem, but we finished at the Samrock Hotel, which was convenient for the bus stop to get the bus home, and then the heavens opened with rain. So, but it was really, really enjoyable. So there's something about getting out on foot and seeing how things were and seeing how things are, but understanding how they were to how they are as well. And I think you have to be on foot to see that. There's probably no other way you can do it in and absorb it and get a sense for it in terms of the atmosphere of these various places. So thoroughly recommend that. And if you are miles away and you'll probably never get to this area, but you like my stuff and like my channel, have a look and you'll get a kind of feel for it that way, hopefully. So I've got another couple of things to say before I finish. Firstly, I've been monitoring when I would get to parity between the two kind of social sites that I'm on and followers / subscribers. And yesterday I hit 859 YouTube subscribers and I hit 859 Instagram followers. And then overnight a couple of people followed me on Instagram, but they weren't really proper Instagram accounts, so I blocked them. And in fact, someone else I think had unfollowed. Anyway, that number's down to 858 now, and YouTube is going upwards still, so it's on 861. So really pleased about that. Thank you all for subscribing and following what I do. Really do appreciate it. And I know the numbers that watch and listen to this podcast don't quite marry up with the number of subscribers, but hey, I still hope you enjoy however you visit what I do, because it really means a lot to me. So thank you. And finally, in terms of what's happening this week, so it's weird. There was a spell earlier on in the year when I did a couple of talks within a week of one another, and it's almost happening. Well, it is happening again this week and next, but with a twist. So I'm delivering talks on Thursday evening and next Tuesday afternoon, 2 different groups, same talk about the history of Croydon water works and pumping stations and how it went from awful sanitary situation to what we have today, which hopefully is a lot better. But around the sites. So it's a tour of the sites in chronological order. So one day I might bring it to film. And I'm also doing 2 technical support roles. So on Tuesday, I'm at the Wallingham WI in the Village Hall in Wallingham. And Roger Packham from the Bourne Society is doing a presentation. I'm kind of hosting it from a technical perspective. So my laptop, I've done some work on the slides, just formatting them. And my projector will be used for that. So I'll be doing technical support for Roger. And then the following week, on the Wednesday, I'm also doing the similar thing, technical projector duties at the Sanderstead History Group for someone else who's doing a talk there. So it's funny how, like I had that kind of flurry back in June, July, and then fast forward to September and I got a similar thing. I'm also booked for another talk in February next year. So we've been doing the programme of events for Selsdon. I'll be talking about Benjamin Beeson. So looking forward to doing that. So we've got to that stage again where I say thank you for listening and watching the podcast. Just to give you a flavour of the Open House Festival. I think it's wonderful. I hope it grows. I hope people support it. There are actually going to be some additional walks in London. I think they're only London-only events going forward. Different groups are hosting them. So one of the things I'm probably going to do later this evening is just to go through those, look at when they're available, if they're still available from a ticketing perspective, and if I'm available, I've got no other commitments. If all those 3 kind of join up, 2 or 3 join up, then I'm probably going to put those in the diary as well, but that'll be central London. So just sort of discover a bit more, which is good fun. And yes, and that's it really. So thank you very much. This was episode 159 of the Phil Swallow podcast. Look after yourselves, and I'll speak to you and or see you in the next one.